We need to talk.
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 We already started out with some high energy before you turn the cameras on, so this is great. State your name, what you do, a little background about you.
My name is MR.KOA. I am 24 years old. I'm a professional dancer as well as a holistic.
Professional, is that stripper?
No.
They call themselves
Everyone
that.
always says that.
That's what they say.
I'm not discrediting that in any way.
No, I'm just saying when strippers love saying professional dancers.
They do.
They never want to say, oh, I strip. No, I'm a professional dancer. I'm a performer. So not a stripper.
No, not a stripper. Never, I don't think. I've definitely danced in some questionable costumes.
I like how she said, I don't think, because you never really know.
You never really know the path. Sometimes I show up.
Like, when they say never, they're like, I mean, not for now.
Honestly, sometimes I've showed up to like a dance job and they're like, bring a black bra underwear like underneath the costume in case it doesn't work out. And then they're like, oh yeah, bring a set of heels. They're like, yeah, this is the costume. I'm like, oh, okay.
Just bring a set of heels.
Yeah.
Make it 8-inch, please. Like, what? With a glass bottom. Can you have a goldfish in there too, please? Like, what? Yeah, cool. How's that? How's dancing been? You been dancing your whole life, or?
I've been dancing my whole life. I took about a 2-year break when I went back to school to study nutrition. But now I'm getting back into it for the past year. I've trained in a bunch of different styles, but now I mainly do commercial hip hop. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I work with my nutrition clients are mainly dancers, and yeah, I'm really, really, really passionate about kind of just waking people up to why wellness is so important. And I feel like when I was in school and learning about my own wellness and going through my own healing journey, I felt like the world not just like I don't know, like kind of blinds us to how important wellness is. But I think sharing that and sharing my own experiences is something that's super important to me. So that's like a big, big piece of who I am.
No, it's amazing. I have a very quick question to ask you. Have you ever got any backlash from people when you started doing hip hop dancing, especially as a white woman?
100%. I started doing hip hop more so when I came into the Toronto dance community, I was fully a contemporary dancer. That was like the only thing I resonated with. And to be fully honest, I didn't freestyle back then, and like the type of music I listened to was very different. The way I dressed, my entire like personality was very different back then.
What changed?
Honestly, like I was lucky enough to be able to like indulge in hip hop culture and Black culture and be able to make friends and mentors. And I think like the biggest thing for me was, I think when I first started taking hip hop classes in Toronto, I was taking commercial hip hop classes, which was just choreography. And it's a huge thing in the dance community as a whole. But I think in Toronto, it's something where a lot of the times people that are teaching these dances, they don't know the culture and they don't know, you know, like the true roots of these dances and where they come from and why we dance a certain way. And I think the biggest like pivotal point for me in my career and like actually being able to dance from an authentic place, I think it came from when I took like a 2-year gap and I didn't do like hip hop choreography anymore. And I took time where I actually like indulged in learning about hip hop music and how that evolved, and learning about hip hop as a whole and like how it started with b-boying and
So you did some like actual background research.
Some like real background work, and learning that was like,
that's rare, by the way.
Yeah. It honestly like filled in like the biggest gap for me. And it's like, obviously as a white woman, I definitely will recognize that being in this culture is definitely a privilege, 100%. But being able to learn and just being welcomed with like love and just acceptance, and like, you know, I definitely recognize that even now when I do contemporary dance, like a lot of my influence is impacted from like a culture that's not mine. Like I recognize that for sure. Like even the way I dress sometimes, I know that, you know, the even the way like my energy comes about, I know that doesn't come from like a white woman, if that makes sense. I know I know that I'm like lucky enough to like have had people who have just welcomed me and shared this industry with me. And I think
allowed you to emulate it, essentially.
Yeah, and allowed me to be a part of it. And I think like really connecting those dots like maybe 2 years ago and understanding that like being in this industry meant like it's not just dance moves, you know, it was so much more than that. And learning that for me was like a huge thing. Like I feel like I've kind of come to this point now where when I dance or when I freestyle, it's like I don't know, I'm more able to move more authentically like myself, or just move without like restrictions or boxes, because I feel like I've done work and like indulging in all different types of like foundations, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was like a huge pivoting point for me.
Are you in any TikTok trends?
No.
Why not?
I don't do TikTok. I don't know. I think as an artist, I don't want to like discredit TikTok, and I know that it's paved the way for like some of these really small local artists to be able to be seen and heard, and I think that's great. But to me, it's like TikTok dancing makes, a lot of my friends do it, so I'm not judging. If you make money from it, you make a living from it, like all the power to you. Sometimes with my nutrition, like I'm like, should I make like a TikTok, or like I don't ever, but I do like Instagram reels, which are very similar. But I think to me, TikTok, it shows dance in this light of like something it's completely not. It just makes dance like arm movements and like facial expressions, and to me dance is just like,
I fully get what you're saying.
it's like it's just, you're dancing from here to here, you're just like, I'm like, this is not what dancing truly is. Like, and like there were times in the summer I would walk
Whoa, I was like, okay, I know exactly what you're saying.
Arm movements and facial expressions.
it's like dancing in a bob.
Is she lying though?
But the thing is, it's
she
like
literally rocked. They're like, it turns it into a gimmick, essentially what happens.
Yeah, it's like I do this for a profession, and I've trained since I was 3 years old to be able to do this, and it's not like I just wake up and I mimic what other people do. It's like I took the time to learn where that came from, you know, like I know what the moves are called, and it's like it makes dance seem like you can just wake up one morning, like all these people are like, teach me how to dance. I'm like, yeah, do you want to give up like 18 years of your life? Do you want to not go to parties? Do you want to like sacrifice a shitload of things to be able to be this good? Because like it's not a joke, you know, it's not just like you wake up and you're good one day. You know, it takes a lot of hard work and dedication, and I feel like TikTok literally. Yeah, but he's always just doing these like fake little like waves. You're like, ooh.
But yeah, no, that's cool. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Those are great answers.
Thanks.
I'm not sure if you saw the question that we posted this week.
Oh, I definitely did.
I sent it to her. I'll pull it up right now.
Sure.
And we can go over it.
Let her read it, actually. You can read that.
Yes. So here it is.
So, question is, I love this question. How difficult is it for you to apologize to someone? Do men apologize more than women?
What are your thoughts first?
What are your opinions on this?
The first thing that comes to my mind when I read that, I literally like, laughed out loud, and I thought there's a word missing from that question. And I think the word that in the second part of the question that's missing is, do men genuinely,
you're gonna say genuine,
apologize more than women?
Yeah.
I think as a person,
I actually, in my mind, I'm like,
cheese.
In my mind, she's like, she's gonna say
cheese, because it's
she's
true.
gonna say genuine, and I knew, it's because we.
You knew it's true.
No, that's not. I'm not agreeing with you. I just knew you'd say genuine because women have this thing, not all, but women have this thing where if we don't apologize how you want us to, or the way you want us to, then it's not an apology, which means you just deem them as not genuine.
I don't know about that.
What do you know
I genuinely think, okay, to answer the first part of the question, how easy is it to apologize to somebody? For me, any of my friends will say this. I'm very, like, for me, it's very easy to put aside my, my rage and apologize. I think like the person I am, I'm just very open and understanding. So especially like if I do something out of like rage or like I'm annoyed or something, within like a minute, I'm like, oh shit. And I go up to that person. I'm like, I'm sorry, I acted that way. You know, that wasn't appropriate, or like I acted from anger. For me, apologizing is like pretty simple. But I think when it comes to do men or women apologize more, I would say men probably apologize more. But genuinely, I don't think so.
How are you determining the genuineness of it?
In my experience,
what is the scale? Please?
In my experience, men have a really difficult time, like I don't want to say communicating and listening, but I genuinely think women are a lot more emotional and are a lot more in touch with their feelings. And
yes.
yes.
That has nothing to do with apologies, but continue.
So I think a lot of times in my experience, and even like I feel like this with a lot of my other friends that I've had this similar kind of conversation with, I feel like a lot of the times for myself, at least in relationships, when I've ever like brought up an issue or even just something that has come to mind, I feel like males oftentimes, like I don't want to say they're not as reflective. That sounds kind of mean, but I feel like oftentimes when I brought something up, men get really like, woo, when you have to like talk about something or when you have to just have a conversation about something. So I think their initial reaction is just to apologize. And I think there's no real thinking of what they're apologizing for, or like no internal work of why am I apologizing? Why is this person actually upset? You know, how could
Go ahead, continue,
I think it's like that. And I think for women, at least for myself, a lot of the times, I think when someone comes, like I think a lot more rare for a man to come to a woman with a problem, because a lot of the times I think a lot of the times if they have an issue with something, they sit on it for a long time. Whereas
Not
women,
this guy.
he's like, I'm gonna tell you.
But yeah, I can, sure.
Yeah,
For the most part.
I think that's my main reasoning behind it is I think a lot of the times men just want to avoid conflict and avoid confrontations. They're like, oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I'll change it. But it's like, you didn't actually take time to listen.
So we also have to identify there's an age gap between you and I and Zamore.
Yes, very
so
true.
The men
Very
you're
true.
also talking about are 24 and under, or for the most part, I'm assuming.
Probably not. No.
Most girls who are younger are dating older
Yeah.
men.
Dating older
Yeah,
guys.
I
Okay.
think
older men.
I honestly think this year was the first year I had to tell myself, like, okay, Megan, like, you need to have an age cutoff gap. Like when I was 19, I dated someone really old.
Oh,
Like
you go way up.
Like I didn't even realize until I was older. I was like, that's some fucked up
Yeah.
shit that you gotta
So you're,
uncover.
you're actually not even talking about young guys. You're talking about
No,
like.
everyone I've dated, like when I was 19, I dated a 36-year-old. So weird. I know that.
See, here's my problem as well with that.
If you're
Before-
dating a
No, no, no.
19-year-old, you're fine.
So here's my problem with that. The young women that say they've experienced older men, that older man does not reflect the typical older man.
Yeah,
And I'll say that
100%.
because that type of man that is going for a woman that young does not represent the average typical, like
this is
Go ahead.
I get what you're saying. This is a much larger conversation about something I wanted to delve into when we pull up that other video, right?
Yeah.
But we'll get there.
Yeah.
But in terms of what she said,
yeah.
there's parts of it I agree with and disagree with.
Okay.
Right. So I agree that I personally think in a lot of relationships, men will apologize because in our heads we're thinking, quite honestly, I don't have time for the bullshit.
Yeah.
Like I know
I don't wanna deal with this.
I know how to pick my battles. So,
Yep.
so if I know that I'm wrong, obviously I'm going to apologize. If I know that even I'm wrong just a little bit, but I'd rather not fight with you because
it's not worth it.
It's not worth
Yeah.
it, right? I'd rather my girl just be happy, so I'll apologize. What I disagree with is that I personally think that women have a hard time apologizing in relationships because most women don't like to be wrong, right? Or be told that they're wrong about something. And as a result, when you if I apologize, I'm admitting that I was wrong in a particular situation.
Mhm.
I don't even have to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong.
Right.
By admission of saying sorry, it means that I was wrong in whatever situation that I was in. So yes, I could be speaking from past experience, but even my friends that are women, like there are plenty of times where it's like down the road, I'll get that apology or I'll see that apology. And I'm like, y'all are stubborn. Like that's really what it is. Like you don't like apologizing, but it's not that you can't do it. I just don't think you guys like it.
I think it's also like it shouldn't really be like man versus woman, because like I think for me my experience is that way, because for me apologizing is so easy. So in my mind I'm like, I apologize so easily to anyone. If I know I'm wrong, it's just like apologies out. Like I'm very open and understanding. So I'm biased.
Here's the word choices that get women, including you, in a kerfuffle. What you continually keep saying is if I know I'm wrong. How often do you know you're wrong, even when you're wrong? Because they're like right now, you're saying it is so easy for me to apologize if I know I'm wrong. It's so easy. I can say if I know I'm wrong, I could definitely apologize. Or I'm the first to apologize if I know I'm wrong. Like,
okay,
so,
I'm saying that, but I think it comes down to like self-awareness.
But that's what I'm saying. That is the gap, and that is what was more saying why women don't apologize as often as men. Just because
you think women are less.
Men typically, not all, but men typically will apologize when we know we're wrong, if we think we're wrong, and sometimes when we're right, just to keep the peace. Right? Yeah. You continually say very explicitly, "I apologize if I know I'm wrong." Not sometimes I know I'm right and I'll still apologize. Sometimes I'm kind of right, kind of wrong. I'll still apologize. It's if I know I'm wrong, which means the arguments come and the issues arise with men and women because we know you're wrong, but you don't think you're wrong, so you won't apologize until the very moment you can actually say to yourself, "I think I'm wrong. Now I apologize," and that's the issue we have because you won't do it until you actually believe.
This is to your point though, right? Most times when an apology needs to happen,
right?
It honestly doesn't matter if I have to do the apologizing. It doesn't matter if I think I'm right or am I wrong. It comes down to if the person who is wrong tells me like I felt wrong by this, right, or I'm upset,
right,
or whatever.
It's not for you to determine.
It's not for me to determine who get when you get an apology. Yes. It's if you tell me, "Yo, what you did affected me." If I didn't think it affected you, it doesn't matter. Your feelings have been put in this place. I have to say, all right, like, I'm sorry, right? I'm sorry.
Which entirely negates the if I know I'm wrong situation.
I think that was just like my choice of words.
No, that's your choice of behavior, naturally. Your choice of words.
I feel like I know I'm wrong. I recognize I'm wrong, like in an instant.
Yeah, but
I feel like I act a certain way. Sometimes I'll say things and then I'm like, honestly, I take that back. I'm wrong. Like I apologize.
But the thing is, you're only accounting for situations where you recognize that you have done something wrong to yourself. Versus me as your boyfriend or a guy or a guy you're talking to being like, "Yo, honestly, I didn't really like that you did that." And in your mind, you're like, "I mean, that was fine with me." So,
but honestly, I don't think if someone told me that something I did bothered them, there would be no way that I wouldn't apologize. But I think,
why would you apologize if you don't believe you're wrong?
Because it doesn't invalidate their feelings or their experience, and I understand that. I understand that.
So she agrees,
right? I agree.
It was just a choice of words.
I agree. I just think that. I think the question here is, why does it matter who apologizes more if the apologies aren't genuine? Because you guys are saying I still apologize to keep a fight, but it's like instead of apologizing, I think something way more productive would just be to have a real conversation. Because I feel like when you apologize, it shuts it down, but that real problem is going to come up in months, and it's going to come up again and again and again because you don't know why you're apologizing, because you don't genuinely know why I'm hurt or why I'm upset, because you didn't take time to ask me, you know what, I don't understand why that bothered you or where this pain is coming from. So let's sit down and dig deep into it and understand it. Not just, "Oh, I hurt you, I'm going to say sorry because I know a fight's going to happen and I don't want confrontation."
Okay, wait. That's fair. Like I do agree with that, but this is my thing. Let me go.
Really get that deep.
Yeah.
I'm the why person. I'm like, why is this bothering you?
But hold on.
But that's fair.
That's another problem.
But hold on. But see, okay.
That's another problem.
But this is the thing though, right? I'm not saying all of us apologize just to avoid the further argument, right? No.
A lot of you do.
I can recognize that even when I personally don't think I might have done something wild to upset you, I can still recognize how it affected you, so I'm going to apologize for that, right? The problem is, I think the reason why so many men are quick to apologize and it might not be genuine is because they know in their heads that even asking the why is going to create more problems. Still that they don't avoid. So it's like, yes, I can apologize to you. Like, I'm sorry that I did something that affected you. But why does that bother you? And then it turns into, what do you mean, why does it bother you?
What do you mean?
Well, instead of phrasing it in why does this bother you, try coming from a way that is less blameful and coming from a point of, I want to understand you better and I don't want to
Okay, fair. But this is what he mentioned earlier when he said it's not about it's the way that you want us to follow. So I think there's just no shit. I think there's honestly, I truthfully used to believe that, yes, women were far more like emotionally intelligent than men, right? And what I've come to realize in the last couple of years, and it could be an age thing, what I've come to realize is that men aren't actually as emotionally unintelligent as people think.
We're
right?
Very aware.
I think what is actually happening is that it's a combination of the fact that as you grow up, society doesn't put.
Oh, my questions are gonna go.
Yeah. Society doesn't put us in a place where it's like, oh, we should be having these conversations openly. Because when you go in any male group chat, like, it's very intelligent, emotional stuff going on, right? But the general public wouldn't know this. So I don't know.
Like, to add to his point, like, I think men are becoming, in some cases, more emotionally intelligent than women, and I will stand by that, and I'll say, and this is why I'll say that. This is exactly why I'll say that.
Yeah, definitely an explanation.
And I'll speak for myself. I can speak for Zamora, the two men in the room, and whoever other men are listening that agree with this. But how often do you think, like, I'll ask you this question, how often do you think when you're talking to a man, he plays out a situation before he brings it to you? Like,
Never. Or not never, but not as often. You think? I think women are way more of like.
Hold on, no. You're playing. You're playing out your own situation. How often do you think men play out your reaction before they come to you?
I don't know.
It's insane.
This is interesting.
If I was your boyfriend and I had an issue with you, before I bring this to you, I'm like, okay, this can go these ways. Like, I can say this. She'll probably think I mean this, and then they'll go twist into this. Okay, can't do that. Like,
so how do I say it differently?
We're so emotionally intelligent that we're literally playing out all the potential opportunities of how we can say things and how you can potentially misunderstand what we're saying. And that, after all of that digging and questioning of ourselves, we come down to the point where, like, this isn't even worth it.
But you're going through this whole process that is like so unorganic, where I think as women we're so vulnerable and we're so real with the way we feel that it's like I can bring my true emotions to the surface and a real conversation can happen. Like, why are you thinking about your feelings or a situation or wanting to talk to your partner about something, and before you even hear what they have to say, you're deciding how they're going to react and how it's going to affect them?
Because this isn't how we initially start. This is something we've done this. This is how it played out. It lasted a 6-hour conversation as a result of this. I never want to do this again. So here are my options. I either go back into another 6-hour conversation with this person about a different topic that may roll out completely the same, or I cut my losses and take an apology. That is literally how we process it.
Or you start getting in relationships with people that are more in touch with themselves and know how to communicate better.
It has nothing to do with being in touch with themselves, because what it comes down to, like I was saying to you, is how women want to be spoken to, or how women want us to react to something. It like so many arguments and issues in relationships come because women want us to be a certain way, or we do not react in the way that they expect us to or want us to, and then we get defensive in the sense where it's like, how is what I'm doing naturally still not good enough, when it is good enough, but it's not how you wanted it to. And that just creates a whole onslaught of frustration, because like you're saying, like you even saying like, well, I already know if those apologies are genuine, when they really could be. Because to me, if I'm apologizing, like if I get to the point where like I'm apologizing and I really mean it, if I say, you know what, I am sorry, and you don't think I am, we're still going to fight.
That creates, like,
because you're like, I'm like, what are you talking? And now I'm fighting because like, what the fuck are you talking? Like, I'm sorry. And why are you mad? Okay, so like now
it seems personal.
No, but I'm saying you guys, women not accepting how a man wants to present himself is the biggest issue.
But do you think that the way that women expect men to act, right, I think one of my questions is definitely going to dive into that in a bit.
Right.
But I think it has to do so much more with how society expects men to act rather than how women expect men to act. It's like filling these gender roles that we've been taught and conditioned to live within our entire lives.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
I definitely hear what you're saying, but I still will stick.
And we don't have those same conditions in our mind of how men should be per se. We just be.
And you're I
like,
think
well,
men also have
a man that, like, have you ever heard the saying or a woman say, like, if he loves me, he would. If you really loved me, you would do this. Or if you actually care about me, you wouldn't say that. But like what do you mean if I like shit like that pisses guys off because they're like, what are you talking about? Like, I love you in the way I'm loving you. Like, you're basically saying, if I really did, you would do this. It's like, what does that even, like, that means you've already predetermined a route I should be taking based on how you deem how I should be loving you.
Yeah.
Right? And then it becomes a fight because the guy's like, I love this girl, but she's like, if I really loved her, like, what? Like,
but I think the biggest thing that I like see here and every point that we're all pointing out is there's this like there's this wall between man versus woman. It's like we lack understanding for each other. And
100%.
Yeah. And it's definitely because society, like I said, it shoves us into these roles and expectations and what we have to live up to and who we have to be. It fully shapes like the way we act. There are so many times I think people eventually in their life are like, wow, I actually don't resonate with acting this way or being this way, but society has always told me this is who I am. So I think a lot of our questions, you know, they have to stop being so man versus woman and so restricted to gender identity, because it shouldn't be that way. But it's like we lack understanding for each other because clearly men and women, like, I don't think actually think differently, but I think because of the limits that society has like made us like live within these rigid walls of our gender, I think that that's why these issues arise. And like we can't communicate them properly because we can't understand each other, because when it comes to these problems, like you said, you don't want to sit down and talk about it. You want to just, you know, sometimes you want to just save that 6-hour conversation and move forward. But that's why my whole point is, you know, I think that when I say like women apologize more genuinely, I think women are always just more invested in the why than men, and which isn't a problem. I think a lot of the time men just kind of want to move forward.
I agree with that. I agree with that statement because I'll say this much. Sometimes I really don't care why. Like I can generally be like, all I care about is this exists. Why it exists sometimes really doesn't matter. It still exists.
So when you're saying that as a man, sometimes you don't care as to why, and we're talking about how women are more invested in the why, I think that it's really important to note that women have, for a long time, I think a lot of women, like, they have a really big issue with taking up space. So I feel like a big thing in relationships is a lot of women struggle to feel seen and struggle to feel heard. So I think that's why women are so invested in the why and in like and decoding all of these issues, because they want you to understand them and they want you to see them for more than just this sexualized being, you know? And I think speaking as a woman in a relationship, I think it can feel, when people dismiss you often and when they just, you know, want to apologize and move forward, it can feel like people are dismissing your feelings, whether that's the intention or not. You know, you're genuinely saying you're apologizing. But I think as a woman who, in a lot of spaces, it feels really difficult to take up space and to feel seen and heard and like,
so you guys end up overcompensating.
And you're like, see me, hear me, because
and now guys like, oh my God, like, I get it. And I absolutely get it. Like, that's a good explanation. Because you don't feel like you're being listened to. Now you're like, listen to me, keep it. And now we're just like, oh my God.
I'm sorry, but you're like, you're not fucking sorry because you didn't listen to how I feel.
That's a good explanation though, because I can think of plenty of personal experiences where even
you just want to be over.
It's like there have been times where I just want it to be over, or times where I give an explanation for something, like why I am this way, or like why something happened, or why I reacted. And in my head, it is a very simple, like clear-cut reasoning why. I did this because of this. But it's like, but why? Like what was going on? Like, why'd you do it? And I'm like,
dig.
But
more.
There's not. But I'm in my head. I'm thinking there's nothing to dig.
Yeah.
Like the hole is literally like 30 centimeters. That's it.
Yeah.
but there needs to be more reason behind it, and then it leads to like more conversations about this. So the way you explain it made a lot of sense. You know,
I think it just comes down to women like talking more.
I think as a man, it is naturally easy for you to speak and be seen and be heard and to take up space. But as women, it's like a normal thing for us to be in a room. Even coming here today, I was like, geez, I'm going to be in the presence of two like very strong men. And like, I'm going to have to stand my own ground. Like remembering that.
You're doing your shit.
Thank you. But I think that is definitely why. So I know for me, for sure, when someone just apologizes and they don't listen to me, I'm like, you have no idea where I'm coming from and you don't understand me. And I think it's more of like, it's kind of scratches like a wound that it's not even a personal thing. Yeah. I think that's what it is. It scratches that wound of like, you don't see me. You don't know my why. It's like
another guy not listening to me.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, oh, they're all the same going on in that.
Let's check out, some of the responses.
Okay.
And I feel like I'm just quickly scrolling. I feel like this was majority women that responded, and typical 100%. Consensus is like not difficult at all.
It's easy.
It's easy. It's called maturity.
I was reading all of them like, bruh.
Women apologize more in real life. Men apologize more in relationships.
Oh.
I mean, I feel like relationships are part of real life, but okay.
That's all real life. It's a different life.
Yeah, it's not difficult when you put your health and the health of those you love above your ego. Like that's a good point. Like if you separate your ego, it's easy. Used to be extremely hard, but nowadays pretty easy when I've been able to open my ears. Right? Like I think that was a woman that said that, but it applies to both sides, right? Like you can sit back and chill. It makes sense. And the last one, if my partner sucks at apologizing, then it definitely makes me less sorry too.
Okay.
So I get what he's saying. I'm not saying that I agree with it, but I get what he's saying. Like, I'm sure you've been in the situation. It doesn't have to be relationships where when you come across someone who genuinely either feels like they never do anything wrong or they just can't apologize for shit, you put them in this category where you're like, all right, I know that you stay here.
I'm not gonna disagree with you because there's no point in exerting my energy on you because you're gonna stay here wherever it is you work.
Okay, we need to talk about this next. What were you gonna say?
You talking about the video?
Yeah, I really want to talk about this.
So I was gonna segue into that. So did you see the video we was talking about?
No, she hasn't seen it yet. It's gonna be first time she sees this.
Okay, so the video we're about to watch essentially ties into what we're even talking about now because women and men continually misunderstand each other. This is just a given. Yes. And the issue with that is there's many issues with that, but one of the biggest issues with that is that you and I can both go into something with two entirely different outcomes, but agree on the same thing at initially, like
at the beginning.
Like, you agree with this? Yes. In the back of our minds, our outcomes are entirely different. But what we're both talking about right now can be agreed upon. So it seems like we got each other. Yes. You want a relationship? Yes, me too. But what I want from a relationship and what you want from a relationship are two different things. But we both want a relationship. So we do agree on the main thing. But then there's so many different arms from that main conversation that do not get discussed that creates issues. You create assumptions on what should be coming from relationships, so on and so forth. I create assumptions of what I should be coming from relationships, so on and so forth. And as a combination of both these assumptions, issues arise. Yeah. Right? And one of the biggest issues is that in most cases, not all, men don't really put expectations on women. Like, we don't actually like go into relationship and like, I need to be doing this. I need to be doing that. And then this is what for me to be happy. Huh?
I don't know about that.
Sure.
Like in what sense though? Like because I know what you're saying in terms of like women putting. I know
in the sense.
I know what you're saying.
In the sense where it's like if a guy likes you, he's already he's accepted what comes with you. I like that she's pretty, she's educated, she has a job, blah, blah, blah.
He's not trying to change like your core identity or what you do or who you are.
Care. Like once he likes you, he's in for the most part, right? So it's kind of like I got a smart girl, I got a pretty girl, she has a good job, she's funny, she's this. Cool, like it fits in my life right now. Cool. When a woman finds a guy that hits these things. It's like, I also, without communicating this, hope he does this and this and this and this. Like, just you have these extra things that are not communicated to us that you just hope just comes with us. Like, if these things are good, hopefully he's also faithful and does this, and hopefully he doesn't. Like, no, but like, you don't actually communicate that, because it should technically come as a given in your mind, but it's not. Okay. Right? He should only want me. He should hopefully never want to have a threesome ever in life. He should, no, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. But if you never actually have conversations, those are all assumptions that you just make. And then when those assumptions are broken and the bubble is shattered, it's an issue. And it's an issue that a guy's like, whoa, what? Like,
but you should know these things going into it. It's like, why we don't take our time to get to know people. It's like you date for a month or like a couple months and you think you know them. I feel like you guys said this in one of your podcasts. You were saying something along the lines of like, you could lose like a close friend that you've known for like 10 plus years, but to get out of a toxic relationship where you've known this person under a year can be so challenging to like let go of them. But I feel like what you're saying, I definitely understand what you're saying, where women expect all of these things. But I think there is another side too, where it's like, as a woman, there are so many things that are also, without even being said, things that you should be expected to do. Like, if I'm going to be marrying you, as something that is not even talked about, but majority of men, I will say, will expect, is you expect me to bear your child. You expect me to take maternity leave and give my career and my like income and whatever my dreams and my passions are, those go on hold so that I can raise a family. Or like, when our child's sick, are you going to go home from work and you're going to answer that call? Or because I'm a mother, is that my duty? And I think like women expect all of these things because being a mother, or like even just being a woman and being the recreator of life, it's like you're expected and limited in so many ways. So as a woman, it's like, I'm expected now in society, I'm expected to be a woman, I'm expected to be a mother, I'm expected to be a loving wife, I'm expected to, you know, like still fulfill majority of these like roles, as in like cooking or cleaning or whatever it is. And those are getting like a bit better. But I think being a mother and like understanding that is like such an expectation from most people, I think women are like, if I'm supposed to do that and also be this like sexual being that like I am always here to please you, that's like such a big part of being a woman, is like you're always sexualized. It's always like, we're taught from the time we were children that like our appearance holds so much of our value. So it's like we have to uphold that. We also have to uphold the family side. And also nowadays it's like, obviously I'm an entrepreneur and it's a huge part of my life. So now women are also expected to, also a lot of men are like, well, I'm not going to be paying for this. Like, I think now the gender norms are like subsiding a little bit, like you should be paying as well. But it's like, I think subconsciously men don't realize that there are so many parts that a woman has to play. Like there's so many things that we have to live up to as well. But I think when it comes down to like specific things, women are definitely nitpicky and expect a lot. But it's because when you're like getting into maybe marriage with someone, you know that like your body, your life is never going to be the same after you become a mother. That literally changes your entire core identity. And as a man, you can get a divorce, you can walk away. But as a mom, your life never is the same again. So I feel like that is such a big part that has to come into that.
Just talking to things.
Yeah. No, it's not like, no, I don't disagree.
I had no interjections.
Yeah. I was just like, keep going. Like, let me hear this. Listen, like we just said, we definitely agree with everything you were saying. I think the video we're gonna play, right, is talking specifically about I guess you say sex life, right? Monogamy, polygamy, those types of things. And we've spoken plenty of times on previous podcasts about if more people up front had conversations about what it is they wanted out of their relationships, specifically sexually, a lot of things would change, in my opinion, for the better moving forward, right? So personally, I think there are a lot of people out there today who are in one-sided open relationships, right? Drink that water. Right? One-sided open relationships. And in this particular video, this married couple, and when the video came out, there was a clip, right? The clip that came out, it was just this man talking to his wife about monogamy, and he essentially says that his wife essentially
pressured him
into a monogamous relationship, right? And she interjected, and then the clip ends with him saying, time out, hold up, you didn't like pressure me into this. So everyone sees this clip and they're like, what the hell? Like, why is this guy even dating her then, married to her? But if you watch the entire clip, in my opinion, I thought it was very insightful because you don't hear these conversations happening with married people, right? So like personally, off rip, do you want a monogamous relationship? Is that what you want?
So
Why? I'm joking.
So I think this is something that for myself I've been like really diving deep into recently.
Yeah.
And I think it also comes down to like, this is like a huge like capitalism issue. You know what I mean? It's like the whole way that like our lives are created is people don't question their beliefs, or they're not honest with themselves, or they don't actually know themselves or what they truly want, right? So I feel like for myself, when I think back to previous relationships, or even just when I think back to maybe 3, 4, or 5 years ago, when I thought what my future would look like, I always pictured, you know, being married, being a mother, having a big family. And I thought, because I'm a very like loving and compassionate person, that those qualities would be great to fill those roles. But I think it's crazy because the way that our generation is pushing things and pushing boundaries, pushing, you know, gender roles, pushing sexuality, and, you know, being more fluid and less rigid, I think that it's like caused me to question what I want. And to be honest, like for a blunt answer, I don't know. That's something that I still would have to talk about like with a partner and see what they want. But I definitely do recognize that, you know, I think about the change that I've had in my life within the past 2 years. And I think about being with one partner for the rest of my entire life. And I think about what society makes us believe is a regular relationship. And to me, I had this conversation with a friend the other day who was saying, oh, you know, how many days a week would you want to spend with a partner? And I was like, you know, I don't have time for more than 1 to 2 days a week. And he was like, that seems really low. And I definitely have been in relationships where I've been with my partner every day and lived side by side with them. And I think it's hard because society makes us feel like that's normal, and having this like person that like your soul is like connected to is normal. But I don't think that we think realistically about it. I think you said this on one of your podcasts, that eventually things like they get old, not in any type of way, but it's like, how can we expect to just be exclusive to one person or be owned by one person? So
listen, to your point, if it was, I kind of wish it was normalized that you could be in a relationship with someone, but it was normalized that you don't live with them all the time.
It should be normalized.
I specifically say that just from like literally like a mental health perspective.
100%.
Because it doesn't even, it's not to say that this person, that your partner that you're with all the time is like negatively affecting you. No. It's just, as much as humans are creatures of community and, you know, being with other people,
we're creatures of change.
Yeah, we're also we're creatures of change, and we're creatures of solitude at times. Like, you need your own, because that's what makes community so important.
You need to have the ability to have independent thoughts.
Exactly.
You also need space. Like, I feel like one of the biggest things I've learned recently is like, I was somebody, I'm sure you both can relate to this because I know you both have a lot of passions. I think being in a society, this also comes down to like, this is going to be one of my questions later on, but being somebody who is so constantly busy all the time, I feel like we're taught to be always stimulated, always on the go, always like occupied in doing things. And one thing that I realized recently is that in order to like really hear my own self and know my own self and make decisions from my own self and like dive deeper and connect deeper with my intuition, the only way to do that is to create silence and to create space. And like, I think about, especially quarantine for me was like a forced slowdown, like it was for a lot of people. And I think that, you know, in a relationship, I wake up every morning at my home, and before I do anything, before I book calls with clients, before I have space to like hold space for friends, before I take phone calls, before I do anything, I spend an hour alone with my coffee and with my book. And I think back to like or my journal, and I think back to being in a relationship, and I was constantly around somebody else's energy. It's like, how do you expect to grow or like know yourself when you're always around someone? Like, I don't know if people are just like unaware of themselves, but it's like, I don't know about you, but I go out when I'm social for like a day and I'm tired. I'm like, I held space for you. I had conversation with you. And now I need to go home and I need to be quiet and I need to go inwards.
Reset.
It's like, how do you expect to do that in a relationship? Like, I hang out with my best friends that I fucking love. Like my friends that I'm like, you literally see like all of me and I love being around you. But go over 2 days, I'm grumpy. I'm like, I need my space. I need my time. So how do you expect to live with somebody? Like, why is it like, to me, the one thing I always think about marriage is like, I want it to be normal in a relationship to take time from that person, to not text every day, like maybe like a hello or a good evening, like to know that person's alive. Something like that. But why is it so normalized that we have to be in such close contact and possessing these people and like, not possessing, but like, you know, like why do we have to be so like on these people?
I think that's a personality thing though. Not like I don't even entertain relationships like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Like just personally, if I get that vibe off rip from just talking to you, we won't even start dating.
Even just like living together though. Like, do you live with your girlfriend?
No, I've lived with people before, and we've talked.
We've talked about this a million times. You're literally taking two separate lives and you're smashing them together.
I feel like
saying work.
And I've never, you know what? Like,
it's not that it can't work.
You know what?
It works because you make it work. Not because it actually works.
No, and I literally I feel like when I was a kid, I would. He's like,
you make it work.
Yeah.
No one actually fuses together.
But you need your own space. Do you not feel that? Like, I remember when I was a kid, I would say all the time, like, yeah, I can't wait to be married, but oh, I definitely need like a getaway house, or like I need a house in my own house that is like my space. Like, you don't enter my space, and like I need to go there to like retreat inwards, and it's like that should be normal.
I'll give you the best example of what before we get into the video, what I missed when I was living with somebody. Like what I missed about being by myself when I was living with somebody.
Okay.
Was I live by myself now, and when I wake up, or if I don't wake up, or if I want to lay there, or if I don't want to lay there, or if I want to sit and edit all night, or if I don't want it, like the freedom to just do without having to entertain. And I don't mean entertain like, hey, like want to play games, just like when someone's in the space, you're obligated to acknowledge them. And it's not like I don't want to acknowledge the girlfriend, but like when you're forced to do it, like if I get up and you're here, I'm not allowed to just not talk to you.
No.
Even though I technically can if I really, but that's an issue. If I wake up, I just don't want to speak to you, I can't. I have to acknowledge your existence here because you're here. You're forced to be on your time, on their time.
Mm-hmm. And it's not just because it's a relationship. It would be this way with any human.
They're there.
Yeah.
Like, I can't act like you're not.
It's that way with a roommate or with a friend or whatever. It's like if someone stays on your couch for a month and you're like, yeah, no worries. After a month, you're like, get the fuck out of my space. Yeah. You know, you're just like, obviously stay as long as you need, but it's like that alone time is so important, and it's weird as hell that we don't value it. Yeah. Even if they're like, I do my thing, you do yours, it's still you.
I just don't want another body here.
Yeah.
No. And it's also too like, it's that judgment where it's like they're not even judging you, but like if I want to wake up one day, it's like humans, we all think that like success, we have to stick to these like rigid routines, but there's also such beauty in just like waking up and like, you know, one, like getting to be playful, and also just like getting to be spontaneous and go like have your day off take you where the fuck your day off takes you. Not like waking up and this person is here and you feel like expectations or judgment or anything from them. Even if they're like, I'm sitting here reading my book, there's still this thing in your mind where you're like, oh, if I sit
at some point I need to communicate.
Yeah, or not even communicate. It's like if I stay in my pajamas all day and I want to order ramen and sit in my bed and be a disgusting piece of shit, like I feel like there's some kind of like judgment coming on here. Or if like if I want to like go outside and do my own thing, it's like, do I have to invite you? Do I have to you're caring about their feelings constantly.
There's way too many secondary thoughts that should not have to exist.
You're out here rather than just like sitting in here.
Let's hop into the video. But yes,
this whole that whole conversation just triggered me. But comment for another time. But basically, once again, I asked you about monogamy because I think a lot of people think they want monogamy. Mm-hmm. And as you said, when I asked, you said, I don't know. Right? Because you meet different people in life and someone may make you think, I want it. You may meet someone who says, I want this with you, but I still want to be able to like have emotional relationships with other people. And
it's also like the line that you cross, right? I think people don't talk about that enough. Like, what is monogamy to you? Yeah. What is harmful to you? You know, I think for me, like as a person, I'm a very like with men or women, I'm extremely like loving and like flirtatious person by nature. And I don't mean that in any type of way of like trying to cross any boundaries, but I know that I go above and beyond for multiple people in my life. And I feel like in a relationship, every time I'm in a relationship, everyone is always mad at me because they're like, oh, you're too social or you're like talking to this person too much. And I'm like, this is who I am. And I'm not going to change the way that I am because it makes you uncomfortable when like I know what my intentions are. Right. But if you don't talk to your partner about what their boundaries are and what their what their, you know, it's even something so simple. Like I remember days when I was like jealous and toxic, like that was definitely a thing. And I remember like silly things, like I would get really angry when my partner would be really like vocally expressive about like another woman that he finds very attractive, and like now I laugh about that. I'm like, I don't know why that would bother me, but it's just I feel like people don't communicate like what you guys were saying. They don't communicate what they want enough. And I think even from me saying I don't know, I think people get into relationships in the state of I don't know. So how are you going to bring that forward and communicate it if you don't fucking know yourself?
Good point. All right, so let's watch this clip. I'll probably time to get your opinion, okay?
Because I don't want to say it's a man versus woman thing, but a lot of women do complain, oh, my husband's always on me. Why is he always on me? Mm-hmm. If sex is going to be a chore for you that you don't really want to do, why do women constantly push monogamy on men? If you know that you don't want to have to deal with him all the time just wanting you, why do you push monogamy on men?
Well, who's to say I pushed anything on anybody? Like,
well, we know that you pushed monogamy on me.
I pushed monogamy. I forced you to get married to me?
Time out. I didn't say you forced me to get married, but did you not say to me that you wanted to be engaged and you wanted to be married before you lived with me? You didn't say that?
I want $1 billion. That don't mean I'm going to get it. I can want something, but not... You right now, you're dodging the question. Nobody pressed you to do it. Yes, is that something I wanted? Yes, it was. But
you didn't press me. Are you gonna lie now to the people because we talking about sex?
DeVal,
you're gonna lie now to the people?
DeVal, knowing
you didn't want monogamy?
Of course I did.
So then why are you avoiding the question?
That's not avoiding the question. I'm saying, does that mean because I want it and I requested that you were gonna deliver it? Like nobody pressed you for that.
Time out. You just said you wanted it and requested it. Do you not hear yourself?
I can make a request. Is the request going to be granted?
Am I not granting you monogamy?
You are granting it to me.
So this is my question.
Look at your boy. Look at your boy.
Is she not deflecting here?
100.
There's some deflection going on, right? Because I feel like he was trying to ask a very straightforward question about in general,
right?
Women. He didn't say specifically her.
The first thing she even said was, I forced you to get married to me. And he said nothing about that. The first question he said is, why do women push monogamy on men? And she literally said, I forced you to get married? Because like, what? Like, that's why he timed out. He's like,
yeah.
Oh, and this is what, not all, but this is what a lot of women do. It's like, can we stay on task, please?
Yeah, you're like, I did not, those words didn't come out of my mouth.
Well, you're basically saying it's the worst sentence by women. Like, it's the worst sentence ever. Like,
you're tripping because I know you said this. You definitely said this, haven't you? Look at her. There you go. Look at the laugh.
No, I just think that the way that she's thinking right now is she doesn't want to admit to herself that this is the thing. It's like when you present something on the table and you're like, this is my need or my want. She's saying, you had the choice to give me that or not, but she's not acknowledging the fact of like, what would you have done if he would have said no? If he didn't.
So he didn't actually have the choice.
Okay,
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, because you probably would have broken up with him at that point.
Let's keep watching.
This is my question. If you wanted monogamy,
okay,
Why would you want monogamy if sex is a chore for you? That's the question. You're avoiding the question.
I'm not avoiding the question, but at first you said women or in general me specifically are pushing monogamy on somebody. Okay, yes, that's something that I wanted, but I didn't press you for it and be like, Deval, I'm gonna hold a gun to your head to propose to me. Also, let me finish. Also, I don't feel like I was adequately prepared for marriage. And I've said that before, because if I knew that marriage and monogamy was going to involve me trying to meet you where you were at sexually for years to come, then I probably would have reevaluated it if I wanted to be monogamous anyway.
So this is why I said that little soundbite at the beginning defeated the whole purpose of this conversation, because I've never heard anyone in a marriage say that. Admit that. To make it even crazier, it's the woman saying that too, right?
Had I known, I wouldn't have got married.
Typically, men are the ones who will say something along these lines, but it's not as educated as that. Yes. You might see guys say, "Man, I shouldn't have got married. I wish I was still single." Right? But she said it in a very particular way where it's like, had I known these are the things that come with like monogamy, a traditional monogamous relationship, I might have change my opinion on whether or not I wanted to be in a monogamous relationship.
Right. But what you're saying is they never had that conversation. That's the biggest problem.
If we're here right now, they definitely
but you have to remember, I think they're 36 and 37, right?
They've been married for 10 years.
10 years. Yeah. I don't think most people, I think the majority of people are not having this conversation.
No, I don't think a lot of people think about...
They're scared of the conversation.
Well, they're scared of because they don't know what they actually want too. Because I even think about myself 2 years ago when I was so in love with my ex and I was like ready to marry him, like blindly. And what I thought about what I would want, it would be a monogamous relationship. But I think people don't communicate back and forth. Okay, what does monogamy mean to you? Like we were saying, they don't talk about what's over the line, what's not over the line, what's okay, what's not okay. And I don't think males are, because I hear what she's saying a lot from women, like, oh, like he's on me all the time, like he always wants to have sex with me. But it's like, I feel like that has, like, is it changing when you're in the relationship, or like if you're in marriage with someone for a lifetime, like and you're in a monogamous relationship, are you committed to, making sure that both of your sex life is important for the rest of your fucking life? Because like, also, I think it's important to be with a partner where like your sexual energy matches, because if what I want from sex, if my love for sex is different than yours and we're married, one of us is not going to be happy.
Yeah. And this is the thing too. I saw some comments about this video because people were saying, well, when he keeps talking about monogamy, he's talking about specifically from the angle of the sexual aspects of it. Mm-hmm. And there were people chiming in basically saying that that's not all what monogamy is. Obviously, it's not. Yeah. But quite frankly, from a male perspective, if I meet a woman who I genuinely really like, I fuck with her on all these levels, and she tells me I want a monogamous relationship, right? It's up to me at that point whether or not I want to continue forward. Because in my head, I can say, you know what? Maybe monogamy is not for me. I don't want, like, I really like you.
Off rip, you can tell the person.
I can say that off rip, but based on how society has gone for the last thousands of years, when I am presented with that option from a woman, in my head, that is an ultimatum at that point.
Yes.
Right? It is, if I don't agree to this,
you lose her.
I know that I can no longer be with you, pursue you. I just can't, because I do not fit this mold that you want me to be.
And you're convinced.
I'm convinced.
No, so she's convinced. Yes. This is what I need.
Exactly. So as a result, most men, and yes, this is a problem on both sides. Most men should just say,
it's not for me.
It's not for me.
But right? Go into it.
But we go into it because we're like, you know what? I can lock down with this one woman. For her.
Yes.
But what he's saying is the problem becomes,
if I'm doing this for you, you better be down.
But the same way you said, and you said a big point earlier, people forget when you get married, there's all these roles, right? People think you have to bear my kids. Your body changes over time. And the way that women's bodies change over time, not even just from a physical perspective, right? It's internal, like it's very different to men. Like my sex drive, unless something happens, quite frankly, might not change. As I get older. It's also
like a hormonal issue for issues, or it's a hormonal issue for a woman, which like if you have an issue with your libido, with your sex drive, like you should be going to see some kind of alternative health practitioner. Ding, 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 which like we don't talk about enough. But I think a huge thing here is that we keep coming back to this, is that people don't really know for themselves. Like, I think for me, when I think about this, it's like, I think in society, we think about a relationship, okay? And we think about monogamy, and that's what's expected. And it's every time we don't have monogamy, it's always typically in a way where it's not communicated and it's done behind your back. So we think about you having sex with another person as betrayal and as something painful and as something that is like unbearable to live with. But I wonder, I don't know for sure, but I wonder if we were to be more open about this, and we were to talk about it more, and, you know, the communication were to be there, would we feel as hurt and betrayed and as unloved when people were to sleep with other people, if that was all it is, you know?
That's a big point, because I personally feel like right now, the way everything's set up, if I was to say to a woman, based on like hearing what this married couple of 10 years is saying in our timeline, if I said to a woman, look, I know that I want to be with you moving forward, right? Maybe for the rest of my life. We get married. I know this. But what I also know is that our sex drives are going to change, right? And I'm going to continue wanting to have sex with you the same way that I am today at 28. That's not going to change when I'm like 30. If I'm like 38, if I'm still madly in love with you, that's not going to change. I feel like it's going to change for you. Not because you don't fucking love me.
Just factors.
It's just there's a lot of factors in play, right? And I'm worried that
when that happens, it could create problems where I might, for whatever reason, even though I'm saying this now, my brain is still going to have some form of resentment for the fact that I'm not being pleased sexually the way that I like to, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you see how that conversation can lead.
It's because it's because it can be really hurtful, I think. Like, even just
it's just truth.
It is truth. But even just hearing you say that as a woman, like, if I'm honest with like the way that makes me feel, like, I would obviously love to believe that like I'm gonna be having sex the way I do now
like, no,
when I'm 50.
Fine.
Yeah,
you won't be. Stop it. Yeah, like you won't be.
But
and it's fine.
But the idea that like I can be with my partner and like, you know, sex is such an incredible thing, like, between a relationship. And I think that as a woman, thinking in your mind that like, especially because as women we're so sexualized, I think that's like a big part of it, right? Like, so much of our life is like how we can please other people's eye, how we can like, how our bodies, how our like sexuality, how our sensuality can arouse other people, right? Like, even if you're just thinking about like how sex works, it's like the woman is always expected to like be so sexy that she like arouses a man, and that is how things come to be. And I think that it's so disheartening as a woman to accept in yourself, you know, that one day you might not be able to give that to your partner. You might not be able to give them what they want,
or you might not want to,
or you might not want to. But that sucks, because for me at least, like, sex is a very intimate thing, and I think it's just like disheartening to think and to know and be honest with yourself, like, oh, you know, I might not be able to do this for that person, or I might not be able to show up in the capacity that they need me to, but you want to, because like, obviously you love and you care about that person. But it's like, it's kind of one of those things that I want to say like, oh, we'll talk to it when we get to that point, but it's like, it's just hard because as a woman you don't understand that you're gonna get there.
But this is why I think things like, not even I don't even want to say open relationship, because there's a difference between open and polygamy. But this is why I think polygamous relationships honestly would work for a lot of people, because it doesn't always involve it being sexual, right? A lot of the time it can be just an emotional relationship you have with other people. So the thing is like, that conversation I just had, I'm fully aware as I'm saying it how hurtful it can be to the woman, right? But as I'm having that conversation, saying those things, I'm also accepting the facts that in me saying that, it means that she's also entitled to that. She's
and that's what I was going to ask you.
Like, she's entitled to also like experience things sexually with other people if it helps fulfill her needs, but then also helps our relationship.
And that was the question I was going to ask both you and Zamora. That from what I've gathered in most situations with women is that whether it's conditioning or whether they really feel like that, I'll ask you personally. It might be conditioning, like how you really feel. If you got to a point in your marriage or in your relationship or whatever it is where, you know, you didn't feel like having sex a few times, kind of tired, kind of lazy, you're kind of not in the mood, whatever, and your man's like, okay, we're still together, I still love you, whatever, but like, is it cool if I have sex with someone else because you don't really feel like it? I don't have a relationship with that person. Like, it's just, I don't want to force it on you. You clearly are in the mood, and I don't want you to do it just cause for me, because that's weird. Like, so I definitely want to have sex right now. You don't really want to. Cool. Can I have sex with someone else just to relieve my urges? I come back to you. You're still my wife. You're still with her. Still my girl. Whatever. I'm not gonna go call that girl. It's just so I'm not pushing this on you, and I come back. One, are you fine with that? And two, in most cases, just because the way guys are and the way our minds work, guys wouldn't want their girl to go do that with other guys or whatever. But also, some women are like, well, I don't want to do that with other guys. The difference is, not always, but most women don't necessarily want to have those situations with other guys that they don't care about. Guys, not always, but guys can and come back to relationship as normal. But then it feels to the woman unfair because like, well, I can't do it. Well, no, you don't actually want to. Like you're almost taking away, you're not taking away, but you're almost denying the opportunity for a man that actually is willing and fine with doing that and come back to you completely fine because you're not able to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you're deeming it, well, maybe not cheating because you know about it, but you're deeming it as like, oh, like this is not, like I don't want him to go over there because, you know, I wouldn't do that to him. But it's like, but his reasoning is not the same as yours. So just because you can't do it and aren't really willing and don't have the mood to do it, doesn't mean him doing it is for the same reason you think. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
it's all
like
very complicated.
It's very
you get what I'm saying, though, right? Like,
I get what you're saying.
Girls would be like, I don't want to do that. It's like you don't want to do it, and that's fine. Him doing it is not the same reason why you can't do it.
I think though, one of the biggest things that like just keeps coming up when you say that, I think women by nature, sex to us is a lot more intimate and it's a lot more emotional. I think like having to get like, I don't know, to say it as simply as possible, I think like having another human like physically like inside of your body is a totally different feeling than being the person putting yourself inside of a body, right? Yeah, and I think that's like a big part of it that we don't even recognize. And I know
it's invasive.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know for
to a stranger, if it's a stranger.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And I think the biggest part, I know for myself, even if I were to, you know, be open to being in an open relationship or depending on my partner, whatever our boundaries were, I think the thought of somebody, I think there's a couple things here. I think one fear is that obviously a lot of people fear when you start playing with other people that, you know, there will be an emotional connection that comes about and they leave you. Right. Yeah. And I think another huge point here is I think that oftentimes when we're talking about how your sex drive and my sex drive, if we're aging together, you're still going to want to be having sex a lot more frequently than me as a woman. We're saying hypothetically. I think the thing that is very hurtful here and is honestly like a societal kind of trauma for women is that you're probably going to go have sex with a younger woman. And I think something that is like built into society, women are always dating older men all the time. So I think it comes to this feeling for a woman where society makes us feel like we hit a certain point. You have no more value to this person. It feels like, you know,
like, okay,
you max out.
So to your point, like I agree with that, right? And I watched another podcast the other day with this older woman. She's in charge of matchmaking, but she wouldn't say which company it was for. And she basically used the city of Atlanta as an example, right? And she was basically saying that women have basically changed the way that dating in the modern era has happened through social media and like a multitude of reasons. Right? And it was very interesting hearing this older woman talk about, because she was speaking from her own experience. And then, I'll link it to you. But basically what she said was, when a younger woman gets a older man, right? Might be a baller, might got money, whatever. She's like, the reality of the situation is she didn't get that man because of any intrinsic values. She got him for doing nothing based on how she looks, right? That's how she got him. This guy that got this very gorgeous looking woman or whatever, he had to have all these things. Like he had to have money, he had to have status, he had to get all these things that allowed him to even look and talk to a woman who looks like this. Right. Otherwise, she's not looking at him. Right. She's not looking at him at all. Yeah. The problem becomes, as time goes on, women basically start thinking that this is what I deserve. Like, I deserve this guy, this type of guy who has all these things because of how I look. Right. And then what ends up becoming a problem is you date these guys long enough and you realize, oh, like these actually aren't the type of guys that I want. No. Right. So then you say to yourself, I want a guy like that, but he has to have these values that are over here with the guys that I wasn't looking at before. Right. Trying to mix them. And this woman, I think she's like 49. She was like, those guys are unicorns because they're either already married, right, or you passed them off in the age group for so long.
It's because you pass them off. You pass them off before you let them like come into their own, right? Yeah. This is definitely like a question I'm going to touch on more, but I think it has to do with like our expectations in society of like what we expect a man to be and a woman to be. Like, I think for myself, there are definitely a lot of boxes that I would love a partner to have, but there are some things where I'm like, you know what? Like, even for being an entrepreneur and for myself moving back home at 24 and, realizing that like I need to save money and I want to quit getting out of the service industry, which I've worked in for a long time, and I can make a ton of money in. And it's, for me at my age and being a female, it's acceptable to tell people that I'm like going through this weird transition. And like, I haven't lived at home for almost 7 years and like moving back home is really weird. But for me as a 24-year-old woman, it's acceptable. But at a different like point in your life or being a male, it's like we look at that. Like, I was asking my friend this conversation and she was like, yeah, well, if he can't buy me dinner, like I'm not going to date him. And it's like these toxic societal expectations that we hold upon men and women that like keep us from actually having these real relationships.
And it's cyclical, right? Like, it doesn't, I'm not saying, because I don't want it to come across like it starts with the women, but the reality is the way this woman broke it down, she's basically saying that older man, right, who's loaded, he's rich and all this type of stuff, she
values are cuckoo.
She was like, his values are different. Like, literally what he wants, she's like, he needs a woman who is like drop dead gorgeous, looks good with him, and like, because he
doesn't have a mind of her own, and literally just fits into like this physical mold that
she says, look, I can provide everything that I want and provide everything that you need. Yeah. Right. Obviously, I'm sure there are some men out there who are in that level who want more than that. But the majority of them are like, I can get any type of woman that I want. Right.
But it's because women are like conditioned to believe, and this is something I had to like challenge within myself probably like 3 years ago. Women are conditioned to believe that our looks and our appearance is literally everything to us. Yeah. Like, I think about some of the men that I slept with when I first moved to Toronto, and I remember being like, wow, like older men want to sleep with me. Like, that's so weird. I literally at the time was like, my emotional like depth and like depth as a human was at 0.
Yeah.
Like I literally just spent my life drinking all the time.
Yeah.
I had no like interests or values. Like I would have never been able to come here and like share my opinions and beliefs, but I was still able to like go on dates with these men that were older and you know, had money and would buy me things, not because they were interested in me as a human, but because they liked my appearance. And it's a common thing though, because society like puts so much value on our appearance, and it's like, oh well, if you have to think, if you are thinking, if 95% of your brain is consumed by your hair, your your makeup, your clothing, your body shape, it's like everything I do in my life, like, oh, I have to make sure I'm you know, getting my eyelashes done, or I'm going to get my nails done every single week, or I'm going to buy these new clothes, and I'm doing everything to make my exterior something that is pleasurable for you and makes it so that I'm desirable. Where is the time for me to dive in deeper and to do my own work, to start a business, to, you know, heal traumas, to do any of this things that makes me a real fucking person? I don't have that space or capacity because I'm so focused on making you want to, you know, be desirable. And
from the male perspective, it's interesting, like basically how it fucks up the dating pool, because if you're the man who isn't that guy, right? Yeah, it's one thing to get passed off by these women, right? But it's what it does. It just constantly breeds this idea in everyone's head where it's like, I cannot get that woman unless I have these things, right? But I think a lot of people, men and women, deny themselves of great relationships because of what society
superficial
shit.
Yes, 100%.
We all like, I think honestly this was going to be one of my questions and then I didn't really know how to word it, so I left it out, but I think this is something that's super important. So recently I've thought a lot about how my ideal like partner type has changed a lot. Yeah. And I've been single now for probably a year and plan on being single for a while longer. And it's funny because I think back to before my last relationship, and before I started dating my ex, I was probably like 20. And I thought about what my ideal type was. And keep in mind at this point, I'm very, I don't want to say shallow, but just, I don't know myself as a human being yet at all in any capacity. And my ideal type, I remember being like, okay, I want somebody who, and keep in mind also my lifestyle at this point was like, I just went back to school. I'm like still serving 6 days a week, still in that lifestyle, still drinking a ton, like, you know, like still just being this like little girl in Toronto, like whatever, no care in the world, no, whatever, dancing. And my ideal type was a man who, I wanted somebody who had a good job, and like, I didn't even think about like, oh, I want them to be passionate or like working in their, you know, like creating their own lane. I was like, I just want somebody who has a good job. I want somebody who is family oriented. That was like huge for me back then. Yeah. And I want somebody who, what was the other thing? I think I just wanted somebody who like was kind and who would like get along with my friends. It was very simple things. Yeah. And I think now my ex was literally all of those things. And it's funny because I dated him, and then after like a year, I was like, oh my God, like we are totally different people. Our values are totally different. Like I could never be with you for a lifetime. And I think about the past like year and a half of being single and like what my ideal type right now would be, like if I were to be with somebody, and like all of those things have changed. Like now I would say like my top 3 things would be, I would definitely need to be with somebody who's creative, 100%, no matter what capacity it's in. I would definitely need to be with somebody who dreams really big and who like isn't afraid of like breaking social norms. That's like a huge thing. And then I would also need to be with somebody who's very self-aware. And it's just like, it's funny how like, I don't think people allow their type to change, because my type back then was so superficial, and it was no like real true qualities. Like, oh, I want somebody who's so compassionate or kind or whatever. It was just like you said, I want these 3 things. And it's funny because I literally got those things. Hopefully my ex doesn't listen to this. If he is, sorry, but he came from a super wealthy family, and you know, I was living like a pretty lavish life, and I was miserable because like those emotional needs aren't met. We don't really know what we want. I think what we were talking about, it messes up the dating pool completely, because it's like this vicious cycle of women being told that all they bring to the table is their looks. And men being told that all they bring to the table is this role of a provider.
Yeah.
And it's like, until we can break that down, and until each person can get in touch with their own purpose and their own intuition, and it's like, as an individual, you need to know everything that you bring to the table.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Before we move back to the video, like, the thing that's hilarious, I'm not sure if you experienced this, Ryan, but it's very interesting being a man with a lot of women friends who, like, you can see going through this. You know what I mean? Like, I have friends.
The transition?
Either the transition, but I have friends right now who say, like,
struggling to find
I want this type of guy.
Oh, okay.
Like, he needs to be a basketball player. He needs to be something like that. I want this type of guy. Right? And I'm, as a man, I'm thinking to myself, like, obviously, I'm coming from a perspective where it's like, oh, I'm not trying to date you, so I'm talking about this objectively, and I'm a man, so I understand. To assist, right? Yeah. And in my head, I'm thinking,
you're skewed.
It's skewed, like, and it's hard because in my head, I'm saying, I know that guy probably does not want you, like, long term. Yeah. Based on how I know
your personality,
because I know your personality, and like what you'd actually bring to the table,
right?
I know it's a bad match, right? I know it.
You can't keep up with that.
Yeah, like I know
that is not the lifestyle for you.
You're asking yourself to be in a position where you're gonna fucking struggle or hate this person long term. But it's like sometimes you just gotta let people go through it. I don't know.
I feel like it's because they don't know that we're not looking at like characteristics of a human being that we're compatible with. We're looking at exterior things that don't even, like, if you're a basketball player, that means nothing.
That means
like,
you play
basketball. Even for me to be like, I used to always be like, oh, I want to date a dancer when I was younger. I've never even dated one. But now I'm just like, no, I just want to be with somebody who understands like creativity and the fact that in so many places in my life, like, I'm a very creative human. And like, if you don't understand that, I probably can't connect with you because there's just like a different type of thinking that goes along there. Like, I'm probably not going to date someone that just works a 9 to 5 and like goes home and then plays like the recreational hockey. Like, you know, like that was like literally my ex. And I'm like, this is not my thought.
Do you think, like, as I've gotten old and I've met different people and dated different people, like, I don't even believe there's such thing as compatibility.
Like total compatibility?
Yeah, like I don't actually believe like Jay-Z and Beyonce are compatible. You and this person are compatible. I think, like what we said earlier, like when someone moves in with somebody, like you make it work. You find where you guys align, what you can deal with, and what you can tolerate, what you can, what you can't. But I don't think it's like you and I are compatible.
But if our core values and like the way we want to live our life aligns, then we're definitely more compatible than, you know.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a compatibility. I think that's why you and your friends get along. I think like.
But some of my friends and I, we aren't similar, but we balance each other.
That's what I'm saying. So are you compatible with your friends? No, it's not compatibility. It's you're aligning with certain people that align with you in terms of your path. We're all on
where you are.
We're all on different paths. We're all different things. Like. You're not compatible with your friends. It's like they fit the things that work for your life and you fit the things that work for their life, and you guys share, maybe you share values or share opinions, but you're not sharing compatibility. It's like the goal is to find someone you can literally share values and a path with. But the compatibility side, like what you're saying about the basketball player, like I was just having a conversation with my girlfriend. I was like, there's people that are dating certain people, like, oh, I want to date a basketball player, like. That basketball player is his title. He could be into gaming. He could be you know, on the side be a freaking doctor if he wants to. Like
it's like one aspect of him.
No, but it's one aspect of him. But it's like the basketball play, like that basketball player and those basketball players can be two entirely different. But people fuck basketball players.
It's because they're looking because they want like. When you're saying like, oh, I want to date a basketball player, like you might also be like you break that down. Why do you want a basketball player? Like, do you like athletic men?
No,
do you like people that have money? Do you like people that are in this position of like power?
It's not the basketball. It's like I want someone who makes money real quick, like who lives a lifestyle. We can meet celebrities pretty easy, who travels a lot, can show me play. Like that's what you're looking for. You're, like. It's not the basketball player. It's just what the basketball player can bring.
What you think he brings to the table, though.
You're not saying I want a basketball player in terms of a personality of a basketball player. I want someone who's fucking girls and traveling and do like that's not no, that's not what you're not saying. I want a guy who has a whole lot of women at his leisure, traveling all the time, girls at his room, chilling with his boys, bitches everywhere, money and parties, and like you're not saying you want that. You want the lifestyle that those basketball players are living and can potentially bring to your life, but also be faithful to me and don't let those girls in. Like, what do you at? Like, this is not a lifestyle.
It's like you're wanting their lifestyle with your expectations and your your rules around it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Back to the video.
Yes.
So that's fair, but we're not even talking about marriage. Let's even talk about dating, right?
Okay.
Two people are dating. Typically in society, who asks for exclusivity first, a woman or a man?
I would say a woman.
Thank you. That was my whole point. See, you were going all over the place. If women typically ask for exclusivity first, then when they get exclusivity, say, he always on me, he always want to have sex. Why are we asking men for exclusivity if we do not want to participate in sex at the same level as men? We have to think about what that does to a man. And I don't think that conversation is being had.
Okay, I agree. And that part I agree with. Yes, that women are typically the ones that will ask for the exclusivity. I get that. Yes. But what I'm saying is, me as a woman,
that wasn't the whole part.
I don't think that I was necessarily prepared or in the mindset to know that. It's almost like once you get into it, then you're like, oh shoot, like this is what I'm going to have to keep up with.
I get that.
Us speaking as 36-year-old people know that now. Had I known that at 26,
I get that.
I would have to contend with that. Even in the dating realm, then it might have been something I would have reevaluated.
So now let's go back to what you asked me. You said to me, you never pressured me to get married. In 2007, we were living together, right? You said you no longer wanted to live with me and shack up with me because you wanted to be my wife, not my girlfriend.
Right, because I wanted to know where the relationship was going.
That don't sound like pressure to you?
It sounds like me voicing where I see my life going. It sounds like me saying, this is what I would like. You can decide to meet me there. If not, we can reevaluate what exactly we're doing.
Yes, you can decide to meet me there. Like I said earlier, it's in his court. But if I already love you, that's kind of an ultimatum. I think.
But if not, we can reevaluate. That means we're done.
That means I'm probably gonna
I'm out of here.
decide that this is not for me.
What are you talking about?
Like if I'm living with a girl or if I'm like dating her long term, right? And she says to me, listen, I want to get married by this age, or I don't want to do the whole girlfriend thing going into my 30s.
Not even that. He said specifically within a year.
Yeah. In my head, I
want to get married within a year. And you're like, okay.
In my head, the pressure, the things that I start thinking about when I hear this is, all right, let's say I want to do this. How much money am I going to need to like secure this? To secure this? So that's pressure.
Immediately. Because like, okay, now I got to buy a ring now. Like, soon. If I want to keep this woman, clearly. That's not a leisurely conversation. That is, so this is what I want, okay? Love you. Like
it definitely is an ultimatum. I won't say that. I won't say that it's not. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it.
I was waiting for Megan to say something.
No.
Okay. Additionally,
would I call it pressure per se? Not necessarily pressure.
It is pressure, but you don't want to say it's pressure. What about being engaged?
You might have felt pressure.
What about
there was
being
no
engaged?
pressure behind it.
I said we don't got to rush to get married. You said I don't want to be engaged longer than a year. Is that not pressure?
That's me.
Bruh. Yes, man.
That definitely is a bit of pressure.
But you even gave me a timeline.
But that happens.
The fact you gave me a timeline automatically made it pressure. As soon as you said,
but it is important. Like the thing we have to acknowledge here is that she knew or thought she knew what she wanted and voiced her opinion. So you know that is important because otherwise we're gonna be going down this road with like this like passive aggressive anger and whatnot. Right?
There is accountability here, right? I think at the time he was able to recognize, oh, I'm being pressured to make these decisions,
and
right? He did it. If he knew what he knew now back then, he could have said, like
you're pressuring me.
You're pressuring me. Like, or I'm not ready.
Conversation right there. Like,
you know what I mean?
And they also didn't have this conversation back then. Like, he didn't say, okay, what is monogamy to you? Yeah. And are you prepared to give me A, B, C, and D?
But this is the thing, though.
He didn't know that.
He didn't know that.
He didn't know she'd not want to have sex like when he feels like it, and not like.
But this is what I'm saying, right? Like, this is why I think conversations like this are so important, because I can tell you now, like, as much as I think I'm getting better, like, in terms of my emotional intelligence, there are plenty of things I know I never would have had this conversation with a woman moving forward if I didn't see it play out like this from a married a married couple. And obviously they've been married for a long time, so they can have this conversation.
They're not gonna break up
without it getting heated, right? Like some people will get heated over this conversation. I think they're doing a great job. I think they're doing a great job. I think it's great to see. I'm just saying that, you know, you need to see things like this to understand these are conversations I should have. And
you need to hear conversations like what we're having, to hear it from like a man and a woman, to understand both sides. Because I think even just listening to you both, like, it is definitely hard to hear that my sex drive is going to be different than my partner's sex drive. And if I'm being fully honest, I don't know yet if a non-monogamous relationship is something that I'm open to, which is just, it's hard because it's like, you have to be fair on both sides. And I think it's going to take a lot, if it's going to work, it's going to take a lot of, you know, like undigging this, like, it's just like, you have to be honest and real with yourself. You know, you can't be selfish and just want something, but not expect any pull in any other type of way, right? You can't want monogamy, but then not, you know, be giving your partner what they need to feel good and, you know, to feel happy in that relationship.
I mean, that was his original question, right? Which is,
that's all he's asking.
It's like pretty, it's actually,
that's literally all he's asking.
It's like super.
He's like, you want me to be monogamous. So in layman terms, he's basically saying from a man's perspective, listen, we were dating. You wanted to date, so we dated. We started living together, so we started living together.
I just feel like,
what? Yeah. No, it's just fine. So we were dating, we started dating. You wanted to get engaged, so I got us engaged. You wanted to get married, so I got us married. Like it's basically these things. I have to do these things essentially.
But I have a question. Do you want? Okay, so just for both of you, honestly, because this is just what I keep thinking of. That I'm like, this is so unfair. Do both of you see yourself getting married?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah, like honest question. Sometimes I do.
Do you want to have kids? And if you have kids, do they have to be like you and your wife's kids?
Yes, for me personally.
Yeah, you're not open to adoption.
Unless it's because we physically cannot.
Can't. Okay.
Similar, yeah. Like I probably would. I would ideally not want to go the adoption route first.
Yes.
But I'm not opposed.
I'm not close to it. If we try and we physically cannot, I'm not gonna be like, well, can't have kid. Like, if eventually if that's the alternative, then I'm open to
I'm not opposed to it.
I'm not starting with that. No.
Yeah. I think a huge thing here that I feel, at least, that feels very unfair is, for me, like, I sometimes, like, I definitely would love to be a mother, like, for sure. But sometimes I think about the physical changes that my body is going to go through, and it scares the shit out of me. Like, I'm like, I don't want to have a kid. And I know from a health perspective, having a natural childbirth is way better for your child's immunity than having a C-section and things like that. But sometimes I think, I'm like, man, like, for me, it just seems it's like I either have to choose in a relationship, I have to choose having a child, which a lot of mothers will say is like genuinely the best thing of your entire life, and I have to choose providing that for my family, or I have to choose not having a child and keeping my body. And realistically, if we're being honest here, if I didn't have a child, my body and my sex drive probably would not change the way that it is going to if I did have a child. So why, to me as a woman, do I have to decide where it's like, I'm bearing your child, which you want your own child, you want your blood child. And I think as a woman, to sit there and be like, obviously you do that for yourself, but you do that for your relationship. You know, you create a child together, and then it just sucks that, like, you know, your partner wants to be with another person because, like, your body changed because you gave them your child.
So that is not the main reason why your partner wants to be with another person. So I'll debunk that part.
Okay.
So when you phrase it like that, that is absolutely unfair. But I will say that the majority of situations that is not the reason why the man wants to sleep with another person. Not because, my wife's went through this and I'm not really feeling it. No, it's guys love other women. It has nothing to do with like, well, her body's not this, like, that is not like, those are reasons that happens. Yes, that does happen in marriages where the guy's kind of like, she's not really looking the way she used to, not really, kind of feeling that young girl. No, but the main reason is not solely because like, I want to leave because you change it. No, it's not like he's leaving. He's just, I just want something else. Yeah. So it's not so much a personal thing. I think that's where the issue and the disconnect comes with women, where they take it personally. Like, why doesn't he want me anymore? Yeah. Well, God, he still wants you. Yeah. He just wants other things sometimes. And that can't, they can't, no, but it will not get wrapped around a woman's head because like, no, he doesn't want me. No, that man come home to you every night, love you, spend time with you, like,
it's because our worth is like so attached to that. Exactly. That's why. And you have attached it to that, which is fine and societal as well. But you have to take the personality part of us. It's like if he wants to sleep with someone else, am I not good enough? No, it's not. No, it's not because it's not because you're not good enough. It's some days your man's just like, I just want to sleep with somebody else, and then never talk to her again and come back to my fucking life and move on. Yeah. And women can't wrap their head around that. Like, why though? It's I just do. I want to do it. Get rid of it. Come back to you, and we live our lives. And women's like, but why do you need that?
But this is the thing, though, Ryan. Like, I think to a certain extent, we can. I don't want to say that we can't even explain it, but I think it's literally hardwired into us, natural. Like, not even a societal thing. I think just naturally the way
like animal kingdom,
animals set up, like all this testosterone is gonna make me feel this way, right? Which is kind of like, and that shit dips down when you get way older, which is fucked. Which is why like men we're still producing sperm when we're old as hell, which is kind of fucked if you really think about that, right? Yeah. So, like going back to your main point, when you asked about like, do you want to have kids and all this type of stuff. I reckon, like, after talking to a lot of women who are married and had children, I've straight up been that guy that's just asked married women, what was it like actually giving birth? I know that sounds crazy, but I've asked because
vagina rips your butthole,
bro. Like, cause we all have seen, we've all seen.
You're talking to Mike.
We've all seen the videos when we were kids in school, right? Like birth of life and like all this shit. But until you talk to an actual woman, right? Because this would be a sick conversation to have with either a married couple or a woman after. But like, I remember talking to a woman last week, Chris's sister-in-law. She was straight up just like, yo, I thought that I wanted to have 3 kids, right? And I believe they have 2. Long story short, she was just like, yo, first child, the experience was basically fucked, right? But then she said your body basically adapts, right? After you have a pregnancy the first time. So at the second time, it wasn't as bad. Like, it was still fucked, but it wasn't as bad. But when she was explaining like some of the things that were happening, like when she was at the hospital, like beforehand, I've always believed this, but in my head, I heard these things and I'm like, yeah, there's no way I'm looking at her and saying, you're naming that child Bob. Like you have full reign.
Why do you think that in custody case, mom like 90% of the time is gonna get custody of that child because you birthed and grew that thing.
So it's like I say all that to say this, right? It's like, yeah, if I'm dating a woman for a long time, and I personally know that one day I would love to have my own kid, right? I know that, but the problem is, it's tough to hear. I know some men, it's tough for them to hear a woman say to them that they're interested in, I don't want to have kids. Because in our head, we've already put this woman in a place where we know
she's gonna have my kid.
I would love to have kids with this woman. Mm-hmm. So I think those types of conversations, once again, you change over time, but it's like the earlier you know, the better. Because I feel like
save time.
I feel like I could adjust better. So if I know that I love you, I know that I really feel this way about you, I personally feel like I know that I could accept not having kids with you.
Definitely.
And just go the adopt route or something else.
If you're that person for
you're that person for
100%.
me, I know that I could do that.
Then that's just selfish at that point. If the person, if you really love the person, she's like, I don't want to have kids, and you're like, and now you're like, well, I'm done. Like, I mean, were you really into it?
Yeah, like,
or to be fair, if kids is that much of a priority to you, then yes, then this is something you break up with.
Vocalize that.
No, but that is something like as much as you love the person, you're like, yo, I love you to the end of the world, but I fucking need a kid, and that conversation needs to be had, and that has nothing to do a personal thing. It's like, I respect your body, I respect your choices, I respect all that, but as much as I love you, like, the path you want is not the path I want, and we both have to understand that.
It's crazy too, though, because I feel like women who decide not to have children, they're literally like deemed as like criminals or like unloving or anything like that in society. And I've been like, a lot of my friends that are like, I would never have a child, or they're in their 30s and they genuinely do not want kids for whatever reason it is. I think as a society need to do a better job at like recognizing that that's okay and that's a choice. And just because you're a woman doesn't mean like you're a creator of life and like this is a duty you have to fulfill. Yeah.
No, I agree. Let's finish this video to take up the whole episode.
Not necessarily pressure.
It is pressure. But you don't want to say it's pressure. What about being engaged?
You might have felt pressure.
What about being
engaged? There was no pressure behind it.
I said, we don't got to rush to get married. You said, I don't want to be engaged longer than a year. Is that not pressure?
That's me voicing
You're a troll.
my opinion about it.
Sounds like pressure to me. So you say you want to be engaged, I get engaged. You say you want to be married within a year. We do that. We get married, then you make it seem like sex is a chore to your husband. Once again, I ask the question, why do women who push forth monogamy on the man they're dating then get overwhelmed when that man who tries to provide that monogamy to you? Why do you get upset when we're trying to be what you want us to be? You don't want me to be with no one else, right? Right? I'm asking. This is a serious question.
Yes, absolutely.
You don't want me to be with no one else.
Absolutely.
So if I decide that all this testosterone I have, I want to give to you, why is this so overwhelming now? This is what you asked for.
Again, 26 and 27-year-old Kadeen was like, okay, here's the natural succession of life. You graduate, you're working, you meet somebody, you guys are dating. You want children.
Yes.
I want children.
Yes.
We don't want to wait too long or too late to have children.
Yes.
Though now a lot of people are waiting until their 30s to have
Yes.
children.
And I understand why.
And we at that time felt like, well, we're doing everything in this natural succession that the forces that be have given us this timeline. However, I did not realize that after having children, after, career changes, all of the turbulences that we've been through in life, that was going to have a direct effect on my sex drive.
Boom. There we go. What we basically said this entire time.
But you also, I think it's just like it's kind of sad. Like, I think as a woman, you just don't want to believe that. You want to believe like, no, it's not going to affect my sex drive. I have a high sex drive. It's not going to change.
But I'm saying, I think the part we have to get to is that if that is what really happens, which it does in many cases, hers and many other women's cases, like, the alternative is being okay with him doing something else for just that particular purpose. Don't, like, you don't get to be in a relationship with somebody else. You're not spending time with somebody else. You're not having kids with nobody else. You're not, going on dates with nobody else. Like, but for your sexual desires, knock it off, come home, shower, please, and let's move on. Like,
but yeah, of course. Like, but I think that it creates, like, this is a great conversation because even when you get to that point, right, where you say, all right, like, go ahead and do this. I think people think when you get that old or you get older, you need to become all of a sudden more creative with your sex life. You hear the term spice things up, when you get older, right? Because you know that shit changes. You're not these young creatures anymore. You're older. You gotta spice shit up. So for me, I personally just look at it as I would really look at a woman and be like, look, it's not just me. Like, it's not just you who's going to change. I'm going to change, right? I know that when I get to this point, there's probably going to be younger women who are going to look at me and want to have sex with me just because I'm an older man who, like, as fucked up as that sounds, I know that to be true. I know this. It doesn't mean that I want to have sex with them, but I know that. Shut up. But it doesn't mean it doesn't mean I want to have sex with them. But I just know that based on how all this shit works, is how it happens. I also know. Shut up, bro. I also know that from a male perspective, I also know, like, if we're keeping it a buck, I know there are younger men who are looking at older women too. Like, this is a fact, right? And I think more women would be better off if they could understand the fact that it's actually okay for them to be sexually, like, free, right? And I understand that society does not allow them to think this way. But if I'm gonna have this conversation with you, it's because I'm accepting the fact that, hey, like, I want you to be sexually free, but this is, like, you and me, like, that cannot be broken. Otherwise, this whole conversation I'm having with you is fucking pointless. Right? I'm coming from a place of logic here. That's why I'm having a conversation.
I.e.
right?
The entanglement.
Exactly. I'm having a
can't go fall in love. Like, cut that out. like
I'm not.
I think it's hard for women because sex is so emotional. That's the problem.
And that is exactly why I come back to the first statement I said.
Yeah.
Is the problem is because women internally can't normally do that. They
feel guilty.
Not even guilt. It's almost like envy. It's almost like, not in a negative way, but it's almost like, I hate that you can go fuck a girl and not care, and I can't.
Because if I'm gonna go sleep with this 20-year-old boy, if I'm in my 40s, like, yeah, I'm probably gonna have a great orgasm with this fucking kid that's banging me like he's a little bunny.
Right.
Like, it's probably gonna be a great time. But the thing is too, like, for women, we absorb people's energies, right?
Hold on. Yeah.
So I think if we're talking about that, if as a woman, if I sleep with somebody, I'm absorbing their energy. And I think as a grown woman, especially, I don't want to say, like, no, I'm going to take back what I was going to just say. I think as a woman, if I'm sleeping with a younger man, it has to be something in this woman's mental shift where she is okay with detaching from sex. But I genuinely don't know if women are capable of that.
They are. No, they are.
I've come across.
I've definitely been in a point in my life where I've
not all are, but there are. So it might not be for you, which is fine. Like, you might, I really can't do it for myself, which is fine. A lot cannot. There are women slaughtering mans out there, and don't give a fuck about them.
Yeah.
Easy.
Okay.
I've come across one. Many.
I think what the biggest thing is like, maybe society needs to, like, encourage women. I think there's a lot of hate also for, like, cougars out there. So I think as a woman being in that position, it might be hard because, like, as a younger woman, if my boyfriend was sleeping with an older woman, I would kind of be like, like, it kind of pissed me off a little bit.
It's funny though, because plenty of women date older men, and we just have to hold that L. Which is like, all right, like, it is what it is. It
is. It's just definitely, like, questioning our values and questioning, like, these norms that we uphold. What
a crazy fucking world we live. Because straight up, I'm telling you, I know people that know me would just straight up won't believe what I'm saying. But I'm telling you, if I'm gonna have this conversation with a woman, it obviously is one, because I clearly fuck with this one, but I'm coming from a place of logic. Like, I know something like, and this is the other thing too, after speaking to people who are in these relationships.
Bring the mic up.
Speaking of people who are in these relationships, the other thing that I've noticed is that when you give someone freedom, sometimes they don't. A lot of times they don't even use it.
Mm-hmm. But they need to know it's there.
They need to know it's there. I need you to know, as my wife, my partner, whatever it is, you have this freedom, right?
Does this freedom have to be communicated?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Like
Okay.
the biggest thing in my eyes is how it needs to work for me is, okay, we've had this initial conversation, like there needs to be communication. I don't need to know like every detail about this person. I just need to know, like, are you gonna be home? Yes or no? Are you safe? Yes or no? Like, these are basic things that I need to know, because on the flip side, I know just from being a man in relationships, monogamous relationships, if I go to hang out with another woman and I don't let my partner know, all of a sudden there's like nefarious thoughts. Like,
what are they doing so long?
What is he doing? Like, why didn't he tell me about it? So because of experience, I know that, okay, this is what I require. So, and this is what I'm going to give to you. Right. There needs to be communication.
It has to be transactional.
Yeah.
100%. Because like, I'll be entirely honest. I'll be entirely honest. I don't know, like, I'm more likely to sacrifice my needs or wants or desires to sleep with other people so that my wife doesn't sleep with other men.
100% fair. Yeah, and I
personally, because or I'd have to be with someone who would allow me to sleep with other women, but doesn't want to sleep with other men.
LOL.
Yeah, but he's being honest, though. Yeah,
like I'm either gonna sacrifice my desire because I don't want some other guy fucking my wife,
which most of them do. Which most of them do. We sacrifice. Yeah,
which we do because I don't want that happening.
Yeah.
Whether I know about it or not knowing about it, I'm like, I don't want that happening. Yeah. Because in most cases, not all, the type of women that I end up dating are women that attach emotion to sex. So I know they can't separate it. Which means if I have to allow them to freely do that, for me to freely do that, I know they'll connect. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Big point. Like, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that's, yeah. But they could also just be sleeping with men who like don't want to connect with them. So
no, I'm not. It's not about the men. The women I know I date connect sex so strongly. The women I know I date, which means for me to be fair, if I'm like, yo, I want to fuck a girl, even though I'm just fucking girl just for pleasure, I know I have to allow you to do it to be fair. But I know if I allow you to do it, you probably won't do it, but you'll probably do it out of fairness because Ryan's doing it.
Yeah.
But you will connect. Like,
you're not wrong.
Once I open that door, I'm like, I'm literally opening this door for me to just relieve myself. But me opening that door to be fair and letting you, i.e. relieve yourself, is opening the door for you to actually connect with somebody. Because I know how you are as a person with sex. Yeah. So you're either going to just not do it and feel shafted because Ryan's fucking girls and you can't or don't feel like it. Or you're going to go fuck some guy just because I'm doing it and then end up connecting in order for you to do that. So that's like, I'd have to either date a woman who I already know does not connect sex so strongly and we both like that. And I'm like, okay, I know for a fact we fuck, we don't fuck. She's not into, like, I already know deep down, like, you don't view sex as anything crazy. Cool. Even though I'm not okay with it, I do know that you can actually fuck a guy, come back home to me and treat me amazing. I do know you can do that. Yeah. Which is a rare person that I end up being with.
Yeah.
But that's the only
I think that's just a rare woman in general.
Yeah. It is as well. Yeah. But that is the only type of woman where I can confidently be like, okay, I know for a fact if she grabs a guy at the club, she'll probably fuck him, clean herself up and be like, I'm out of here, I'm going back to my man. And literally be like, get the fuck off of me. Like, I'd have to know that she's like that as a person, not be okay with it, but be like, I know she's coming back home. I know she did something shit, but
it's funny how like even you thinking about that, like I can tell it makes you so uncomfortable, but like you want to just go relieve yourself. So do you ever think like, do you ever wonder how uncomfortable you feel just even thinking about somebody like fucking your wife, how uncomfortable that makes you feel? Like, you know, that feeling is present for them as well. Yeah. You know, and it's just like, it's funny that we can just like, you know, want it to be one-sided, but like you're saying, it can't.
But the thing is that feeling that is present for them is an inaccurate feeling. And the reason I'm saying that is because my feeling is a knowing feeling that there will be feelings.
But I think for them, like if speaking for myself, as somebody who is like, I'm such an emotional human, like with anyone, like, and like sex to me is intimacy. And I've definitely in the past been able to separate it, but it's like a very I don't like the person that I am when I have to separate it.
I love the person I am.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I love it. So and that's the problem. I love the person I am.
But as a woman, if I was your partner, being that person, so you're saying you're with women who are like, you know, the way that I'm thinking. So if we were together, I think because I think that way, I would think about you, regardless of if I know how you are.
No, but that's
I would still think about you.
That's exactly what happens.
That's it. Yeah.
No, but that is the incorrect thing I'm talking. Like,
yeah.
that is what mentally happens.
Because they don't understand how you can disconnect.
Absolutely. And that is why, to save those conversations, arguments, men just sacrifice, because you get to the point where you're like, you're never gonna understand this, and it's either I do this and it hurts you, you agree to it and it hurts you because you're never gonna actually understand it, versus you agree to it and you're like, you know what, I know he's like, if you get to a point where you're like, I know he's literally just having sex with her, nothing's happening, he's coming back home. Like, if a woman actually gets to that point, that is probably the only healthy point where that could actually happen and function.
And I think you would have to go in steps. It would kind of it's like a building trust, right? It would have to happen one time, see how your relationships change, see how you feel, and like move forward from there, you know? Like, I think, speaking for myself, if I was a lot older, I would definitely, I don't think now I would be open to that, but I think with kids and whatnot, potentially I would be. I think it also just comes to the fact, like, when you're a mother and you have children, it's like, you're like, who is my kid's father around? And like, what is this, without us knowing, what is it teaching them? And what kind of like maybe issues is this like coming with?
Speaking from personal like experiences, I'm just checking your camera.
Yeah, the battery?
Yeah, but speaking from like personal experiences, I mean.
Oh wait, I was gonna ask you, can you say like, in a relationship, do you feel the same way with your partner?
For the most part, yeah. Like,
you are okay.
Well, I mean, okay, so like, look, here's my thing, right? And I'll explain where I'm coming from. So, I have a lot of friends whose parents, like, growing up, they were separated, right? My parents have been together the entire time, but it has not been a great relationship, right? And I'm pretty sure my parents are gonna get divorced, right? And it's something I've come to terms with. But seeing the way that relationship has played out it's part of the reason why I believe that it's
influenced you. Absolutely,
it's influenced me from an emotional standpoint. I understand that, like, yes, it's possible that you cannot be with the same person for the entirety of your life. I've also seen cases where, yes, you can, right? But what I've also come to realize is that the way we're talking, Brian and I have been talking from a male perspective about a lot of this. What I also understand is that over time, you as my wife, you are not going to look at me the same way that we did in the beginning, sexually. Right? I know this. Like, you're just not going to. We all like to believe that, like, as we move forward in life, you know, we're gonna have the same sex life. We're gonna love each other the same way. I think as you date someone, the way you love them in year 1 is very different to the way you love them in year 3.
Let's not pretend.
Let's not pretend, right? It does not mean that, like, I actually love you less. It just means I actually love you very different.
It's just different.
It's just different. So 10 years from now, when we're still married, right? Who am I to think that she's not looking at younger men, or as you said, men in general? Because I know,
I mean, that's happening, period.
That's happening, period. It's always happening.
Whether you admit it to yourself or not is a huge thing, right?
We talked about last episode. I was like, it's healthy. Like, there's not just like liking photos on Instagram or walking on the street and seeing a sexy guy or a sexy girl. Like, you're allowed to accept that I find that person attractive, just don't act on it.
And
like,
it should be normal.
No,
it should be normal for you guys to talk about it.
Yeah. Whoever your boyfriend is your boyfriend because all the other traits that comes with him. Doesn't mean you no longer like men.
Exactly.
You're my boyfriend because you embody a whole bunch of things that make me want to be around you a lot more.
Yeah.
But that guy over there is still fucking sexy, and I would definitely have sex with him. But I have you, and I'm happy with you. It's not people forces the. I don't like that. I'm not looking like. You are.
If you do that, if you force your partner to like even not talk about other women in front of you, or their appreciation for other women or man, whatever, I feel like it cultivates such a toxic energy where it's like, I remember with my ex, he was so controlling of like me being interested in other people. And I remember at that point,
That's insecurity, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, I know that. But that insecurity definitely like poured back into me. And I remember there was a point where I like hated other women. And then I remember at that point in my relationship, I was like, well, I need to get the hell out of here because like women are beautiful and powerful. And like, why would it ever make me insecure or feel less than that? Like this woman's beautiful and smart and talented. Like that is just that way of thinking is just so childish, right? But the problem is that a lot of people like stay in that like thinking for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, as much as we talk about all this, it's at the end of the day, it's all complicated, right? And even after having this long ass conversation, I can leave this thinking I got like some answers. But like, I'm sure there's still a lot of shit I don't know.
Lots that will never be answered.
Lots that will never be answered. A lot of things that I don't know. It's just
it comes down to what works for you.
Yeah,
like and in conjunction with your specific partner at the time.
Exactly, because we can throw society out the window. Like we've clearly seen society does not work to benefit us. Like time and time again. Yeah. So why do we keep giving society such a stronghold over our personal relationships and decisions? Yeah. If it doesn't give a fuck about us.
It's over our life in general, right?
Period.
Yeah.
But it doesn't give a fuck about us. So it's like us trying to abide by societal standards for a society that doesn't give a fuck about us is crazy. Yeah. So I mean, like if you meet a guy that, you know, is open to, you know, sleeping with other people and you're not, but that works for you. And you don't need to tell people like, yeah, I let my man sleep with other people. Yeah,
you don't need to justify anything.
To nobody. Like to know if he treats you well and he comes home to you and that situation works for you guys. Yeah. You don't have to like, you don't need anyone to tell you you're dumb. You let your man do this. Like those are the issues that cause these problems because people now they won't do certain things. They won't allow certain things because what other people are going to deem a relationship.
Yeah. But it's their insecurity, right?
Absolutely. But they go to these other people for some type of reassurance that they made the right choice. Like no one can tell you what the right choice is for your relationship, period.
But that's why you need friends around you who like when you have an issue, they don't give you advice, they let you talk it out, they listen, and they don't give you their opinion because that is just like it's selfishly it's selfishly putting
what they would want or what they would do.
Therapy is not even like your therapist doesn't tell you what to do or how to heal or how to fix things. Your therapist gives you, you know, they let you talk and they let you work things out on your own, which is what it's like if you're going to a friend and you're like, hey, I need your advice, like your friend should never be like, here, let me give you my perspective, because it's their experiences, their, you know, like their trauma, their everything else like pulled into one thing that they're trying to just put in your brain. When it's like, I even say this to my friends all the time, they're like, oh, I need your advice on this, blah blah blah. I'm like, to be honest with you, like I'll listen to you and I will give you like, you know, I will try to point like I'll try to question what you're thinking, right, and like ask you why you feel this way, but I'll never give you my opinion because I don't know the situation. Meg,
I'll say this right now, like you're unique.
Rare candy.
Rare candy. Like you're unique in this situation because exactly what you're saying is the reason why there's a stigma around the fact that most men do not talk to their boys about their relationships. Like, and it took me a long time to understand this. It's not because I don't give a fuck about like the health status of Ryan's relationship with his partner. It's because I think there's like this unwritten rule in our head where we're like, I will not talk to you about your relationship because I don't want to influence it in any way.
Yeah, I'm not in it.
All I care about is, are you happy in your relationship?
Are you happy with the decision you're making?
Yeah. Are you happy with the relationship? Or happy with the decision you're making? Yes or no? Right?
I don't care if you go back to your girlfriend 8 times in a row.
Yeah.
Who am I to be like, yo, again?
I actually don't care. It's
like your 8th time might bloom into a perfect marriage. Like I can't say shit. Yeah. And if I say something and now you don't go back and now you're unhappy for another 10 years and that was me.
Like, because that's the reality. Because that's why so many of us get frustrated when our partner
go to their girls
and
talk. Fucking girl out of a relationship.
It's like first off,
girls out of our fucking relationship.
It's like, hold on. It's like first off, yes, I understand this is your circle of friends, right? But it's like your circle of friends doesn't even know me.
Yes.
How often do we all hang out? How often
And
do
they
we
don't
talk?
know the reason. Like, the thing is, when you're telling somebody something that's happening, I know from personal experience, I'm a
It's
pretty
just
dramatic
surface.
person. You're also always going to dramatize the story or make yourself look better just by a natural habit.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we need to realize that we need to.
And they're basing their decision or their opinions of you based on this little fragment that you told them.
Based off of like one thing you did, it's like, oh, I met some fuckboy that did the same thing. So because I'm jaded and I have like unhealed trauma from that, I'm going to give you this aggressive opinion that I think all men are trash. Or I think, I think like this blanket approach to every single relationship when it doesn't exist. We're all individual people.
Yeah.
Like every single person. We're not alike. Every situation isn't alike. And it's stupid to think that we can just, it's stupid that like on social media or something, you'll see a thread of like, I always like when I was going through my breakup, the friggin' algorithm would always send me things like about like something a man would do in a relationship, like a typical thing. But it's just like we blanket these issues, like we make them seem like common things, but it's like there's so much depth underneath that we don't understand.
I saw a post of people like, stop living your life through memes.
Yeah.
Like people are literally using memes as ways to live their life.
Yeah.
And it's because
These
they
dumb
try to,
relationship
they
memes.
want to connect to something. They want to feel something. So it's like, even if like a girl sees a post on social media and it's like nothing in her life, like that's not even how the situation went, but you see that and it like makes sense. And it like, I think we're always like looking for clarity.
You make it applicable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last question before we end. I have a question for both of you. Do you guys believe that shit is supposed to be in every relationship? So what I mean by that is like in every relationship you're in, so like I don't want to say negativity or there's supposed to be bad things that happen, but I personally believe that when people say like I gotta eat this incident, like this sucks, I think those are natural things as part of a relationship. I don't know if it's because I've seen like this weird shit going on with my parents, but it's like, one, I've never ever believed in a perfect relationship.
No fairy tale.
I've hated the Disney shit, but it's like, I think it goes more so back to, what is it you're willing to tolerate, right?
Definitely.
Like, that's what I think a relationship really comes down to. I know that it's not pretty, but it's like, yeah, there's some things that typically I would not tolerate for anyone.
Right.
But I do because I actually really love you this much.
Right.
Going back to the whole red flag conversation, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
And that's an easy question for sure. It's a numbers game. Everything is a numbers game, and if you add numbers from here, you're taking numbers from somewhere else, and that's just it's like I'm a numbers person, so it's literally like a balance sheet. If you add here, you have to take from somewhere else to balance, and that's just it's a continuous balancing act. If I add looks here, if I add she's successful in money, I'm taking from somewhere. I don't know where. If it's she's not close to her family, if it's she's not intuitive, like I need to take from somewhere. So where are you going to take these points from?
Where are you gonna allow for? Where are you gonna what part of a person are you willing for them to not be 100% in?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because we're not going to be.
No. So
if you're like, okay, this person and yes, there's, don't get me wrong, there are attractive people and smart people, but it's not the
how in touch with themselves are they?
Exactly. The metric isn't just smart and pretty or dumb and smart, or like it's.
The pillars, there's so many pillars.
You might get the smart, pretty girl that does exist. Like, you can have someone pretty and smart. Yeah, you can, but they lack somewhere. So yeah, if those are the two main things you need, I need a smart, pretty girl. Then cool, go for that. But understand you're taking it else somewhere, right? If you drop on the looks part, and you kind of drop your looks and have intelligence, or you gain in family oriented, then whatever it is, but you need to find what works for you. So yeah, every relationship's gonna have shit, because like we said earlier, like I'm slapping my life with yours. We're gonna collide somewhere because I'm not you and you're not me. So
even with real friendships, that happens, right?
Exactly.
Like each of my closest friends, it's like if you're really committed to seeing that person and seeing them it's like you realize that they're a real person and we all have flaws and we all have to work through things and we all change. Like, that's the thing. If you date me for 7 years, I'm going to be like 5 different Megans in that time.
Yeah,
and like, you need to accept that. And if, you know, if you're not willing to like go along with that journey with somebody, I think like, then you're probably like, to answer your point more directly, I think, yeah, every single relationship is going to have shit.
I'll disagree with one thing you just said. Yes, in 7 years, there might be 5 different Megans, 6 different Ryans, 8 different Zumwers, whatever. Your partner is not obligated to deal with all those different Megans.
No.
Or all different Ryans, or all different Zumwers. Like,
no.
Because how a relationship actually works is, as you are ever changing, the other person's also ever changing, and you need to determine at any point if when you guys both change, are you still on pace? There needs to be
Are you
check-ins.
growing in the same ways and in the same direction?
There definitely needs to be check-ins. Not like, are you still loving me? Like, not stuff like that, but like, where you observe something.
Our core values still the same.
Are we still here? Like, is this still, you know what I mean?
If you and I start off together, it's just, I think people don't realize that like we do change and it's inevitable. Like, if I'm dating you and right now our lives are working really synergistically and, you know, we're both working the same hours and, you know, we're both interested in similar things and we're able to like lean into each other and enjoy that relationship. If 5 years down the road, I decide for myself that I want a completely different life, it's fully valid for you to be like, no, I don't want that. No, and that's okay.
Yeah. But it's the fear that like, now what?
People are just afraid of starting over.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely. Good talk.
Great conversation.
Talk. Just over 2 hours.
Oh, this is over 2 hours?
Yeah.
God damn. This is a great conversation. Yeah.
Good talk. This is our longest episode this yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let people know where they can find you.
Oh, yeah. So my Instagram handle is probably where you will be able to find me the best. It's at Mindfully Meg with 2 G's at the end.
Do you have your dancing videos over there?
I do. Dancing videos are a little bit further down. It's mostly nutrition content. But you'll probably see a bunch of dance videos on my story.
Cool.
Weekly.
Yeah.
Sick. Good talk. Welcome. Thank you for, sharing your perspective and being strong for the women. You did your shit.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Until next episode, guys. It was a good talk.
Peace.
See y'all.
We need to talk.
We need to talk.
We need to talk.
We need to talk.
We need to talk.